What's good, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Cheats here. What is good? This is the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. We are going live on IG, and we have some very, very special guests that are going to join us tonight. And we're going to have an amazing conversation about winning mentally and the what it takes to mentally be a winner when it comes to the game of baseball and what that looks like, because that looks different for different people. We have an amazing speaker. I can't say enough about this gentleman. I'm going to introduce him shortly. I'll be joined again by our guy on Thursday nights, former professional baseball player Lewis Brinson is going to be joining us to Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, Numbers Game Scorecards. We are just hours away from the kickoff of the college baseball season, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. My brother is already signing in. I see you, Lou. What is going on? How you feeling, my
We're
man?
good. We're good. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Home team. How y'all doing? See,
I see
I
it.
got to rep the Dolphins, even though
Hey,
it is
man.
what it is.
Hey,
It is what it is, man.
you got to do what you got to do,
Yeah.
man. Lou, these Thursday nights are going to have been turning into amazing conversations. I got to give you your props. Last week we had Coach Weiss from Minority Baseball Prospects on,
Mm-hmm.
and the conversation you and Alex gave was just so fruitful, man. So I'm glad we have the opportunity to do it again.
Yeah.
We've got a
Absolutely.
great speaker. We got a great speaker
Mm-hmm.
tonight. But man, I just wanted to tap in with you really quick. And there he is. Look,
There we
I'm gonna
go.
get to all. Look, we're jumping right into. I'm gonna get into all the former introductions in 1 second. I want to let people get a chance to check in. Let us know where they're checking in from. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. But we're gonna have a great conversation tonight
Mm-hmm.
about just winning mentally, baseball, and what it takes. It's a very, very hard sport to play at
Mm-hmm.
every level. We got the right man checking in with us tonight, so we're going to get into it. But I want to go back really quick because we were talking about being successful at every level last week, Lou.
Yeah.
And we had Coach Alex on, who, again, minority baseball prospects, they're evaluating players at every level. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a couple of things that really stood out to me, Lou, and I just wanted to get your opinion on what stood out to you. But last week, man, two things that stood out to me that I was a little bit surprised about.
Mm-hmm.
Production over everything.
Oh yeah.
That's what I heard from the conversation was you got to
Yeah.
produce. Whatever level you're playing at, whatever field you're on, you got to produce. And then
Mm-hmm.
I also heard about that character kid, man. Like, that character kid, it kind of stood out to me when you and Coach Alice were talking about the kid that was just kind of willing to do the extra thing. Really, kind of endears himself to a situation that lets them be successful.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's important. All those things are important, man. You need to produce. You have to have good character. I mean, you can get maybe a little leeway if you're again first rounder. If you're doing well, you get a little longer leash. You know what I'm saying? If you're performing well, if you're doing everything you need to do on the field, because at the end of the day, that's your job. Your job is to perform on the field and do everything off the field to be able to perform on the field. So if you're doing everything you need to do on the field, I'm not saying you have an excuse to be a bad person or a bad teammate, but in all honesty, teams, coaches, just from my experience, have kind of let those guys get away with a little bit more things. They're like, hey man,
So
he's
we
getting
were
it done
talking
on
about that.
the field.
With
Yeah,
the leash is longer. The leash
yeah,
is
yeah,
longer. That's what we were talking about. The leash is longer on
he's
those
getting
investments, those
yeah.
investment players,
Yeah, he's doing
and
it on
yeah,
the field.
yeah.
So I mean, that's what makes him play well. So we gonna leave him alone.
That's fantastic. Yo,
Yeah,
shout out to Ellison and the Players Alliance. Yo,
yeah.
Ellison's my guy on the check-in. I love it. I love it. So last week, again, if you haven't followed that podcast, it's up everywhere. Black Baseball Mixtape Podcast. This week is going to be a little bit different, man, because I'm going to let my man cook, man. I'm gonna let him get in his bag.
Mhm.
Look, I don't, Coach, don't give them too much because look, you're expensive. You know, people got to pay for certain things. But I want you to get in your bag because we have Coach CJ Beatty with us, man, and this gentleman is more than a coach at this point. I mean, he's been doing his thing on these kind of platforms and social media platforms on his own. He's been doing his thing for a number of years. He's been all around the world. I checked in with him last week, and I don't know where he was, Canada or Ireland or somewhere. He was not in the United States, and he spoke obviously this year at the coaches conference, the American Baseball Association coaches conference on the main stage. But he is such a motivation in his personal story, but also what he's telling young men and women to be able to be successful. So, Coach, I know you have so much game. We're going to dig into one aspect of it, and that's just the mental aspect of the sport, and what you would tell folks, and how you would get them mentally prepared to be successful. And again, I got to caveat this all because I am who I am and this platform is what it is. This is the Black Baseball Mixtape. So we've got a lot of black families, a lot of players of color, a lot of players that may not necessarily be, like Lou said, that top prospect. Look, they might not be Lou. They might not be Lou, but baseball's so difficult, man, and especially if you don't necessarily fit in, for whatever reason, you're not relating to your coach. That mental aspect is oftentimes bigger than the physical aspect. So, Coach, I'm going to stop there. I want you to get in your bag and cook a little bit, and we're going to ask you questions, and the audience can ask you questions. But when you hear, hey man, I want to win mentally. I want to win mentally in baseball. What comes to your mind, Coach? And obviously, welcome to the mixtape, brother. We love you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief. Big Lou's, good to see you,
Good to
bro.
see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, I mean your journey is legendary, bro, and I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Watching you in the swing. You know, we'll talk about the swing later though. With that, hey, that buggy whip, I remember.
that.
But I would say mentally, the game is I mean, it's everything. Mental toughness is what I lacked as a player. And I can tell you in our culture, when it comes to mental toughness, it's not taught because in our culture, we're taught survival. We're
Mm.
taught survival. So coming up from a parent, from a background where my dad is a truck driver, my mom works for the local paper, survival is all we knew.
hmm
So that I attacked my baseball career that way, and I never heard of the words mental toughness until I got to pro ball.
hmm
You know, I'm serious. It was about only thing that I thought about was bigger, stronger, faster, and that is not the case. If you're a player on here today, if you're a parent on here today, a coach on here today, and you're just only trying to get output from the physical, then you're doing a serious disservice to your players and to your career. You know what I'm saying? It is much more than that because the physical will tap out,
Mm.
but the mental will always live on. You know, so I didn't understand that until I got to spring training with the Cardinals. Back in 2010 was my first spring training with the Cardinals. And in comes Albert Pujols, right? Story time. In comes Albert Pujols inside of to talk to all of our minor leaguers. And when he walks in, everybody's like deathly
Mm.
quiet. And we're like, man, what is he going to tell us? What secret sauce is he going to give us? And he says, today, guys, I want to talk to you about mental toughness.
hmm
So I'm glued at this point because I've never heard what mental toughness was, especially coming out of a man so legendary as Albert Pujols. He says mental toughness is being able to attack your weaknesses and learn how to embrace your failures.
Mm.
You
Lou, we're gonna
understand what
talk
I'm
about
saying?
that
Like
one. We're gonna talk
learning
about that.
how
We're gonna
to
talk about that.
embrace
hmm
your failures.
hmm
And what I got from that at that time, I was like, embrace your failures. Because I remember embracing is like, hey, if you embrace something, you kind of welcome it in
hmm
and hug it and, you know, bring it close to you.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out what does he mean by embrace your failures? So he went on to talk about mentally where he has to be in meditation and visualization and how those are skills that need to be sharpened. So he introduced all of this stuff to me in this short 15-minute talk. that I said I was doing none of that. Routines, approaches. I didn't do anything outside of what my coach told me to do.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Most young kids today, they only do whatever they're told to do. And mental toughness is not an ask, it's a lifestyle.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely correct.
So,
Correct.
and to wrap up that story, Lou, to wrap up that story is this. They Pujols walks out. In comes Yachty. Yachty walks in to speak to us, and Yachty talks about this thing called mental toughness. After Yachty got through talking about his preparation, is what I got from Yachty, because he says if you fail to prepare, then at the end of the day, you're hoping and wishing to perform come game day.
Correct.
Like if failure to prepare. So he's like, to make sure that I maintain to be the best catcher that I do, I have a routine that I do, rain, sleet, or shine, every day, on the hour. I have to do it to prepare my body. And I'm asking myself, I'm like, dang, I'm doing none of that. Last person, Yachty left. Last person to come in, Tony La Russa, 3 speakers. Tony La Russa comes in and speaks to us, and he talks about mental toughness. And he says the way you do everything, and he says the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And he says, I make sure that I wake up every day and I do everything the same to breed consistency. And I was one of the most inconsistent players, streaky, hot. So if you're a player on here today and you're up and down, it starts with your routine. If you're inconsistent with finding the barrels because your drills at practice is inconsistent, the way you go about your business has gaps. So that's why you produce gaps. I'm turning it over.
I have so much
This is
already. I want to ask because look, anybody that's on here tonight, you got a treat. You've got a treat, and I want to ask. I want the audience to ask questions.
Yeah.
One of the questions I got that I want to start with because it's just so apropos. I'm a parent of a 10-year-old. The audience the question was from a parent of a 12-year-old. When do you start that mental toughness? You said, Coach, you didn't start till you were in pro ball. You didn't learn it until you got in pro ball. I know you work with a lot of youth. They both feel, and I feel it sometimes, like, am I being too hard on a 10, 11, and 12-year-old because I don't feel they're mentally preparing themselves enough?
Yeah. I mean, who wants?
Go ahead,
I'm ready. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I didn't start my mental toughness journey until 2019, end of 2019, like legit. I was strictly going off of talent.
And what level, Lou? What level of ball was that for you?
I was in the big leagues. That was my second year in the big leagues. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was my second year in the big leagues. At the beginning of that year, started off bad. My rookie year didn't go how I had planned. Second year started off bad. I got sent down. I had to figure it out. I cut my hair off. I had a mohawk. I had a bunch of hair. I cut it all off. I was like, man, it's got to be my hair. I never have hair this long, blah, 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 blah. And I look back at that and want to slap 2019 Lou because, like, bro, what are you talking about? But anyway, so that year went down to the minor leagues, figured some things out, came back up to the big leagues. Did okay, but still wasn't up to my expectations and everybody else's expectation. I'm on my way home on the flight after our last game in Philadelphia. I'm sitting next to my friend, and I tell myself, I'm like, something needs to change. I have to do something I've never done to get somewhere I've never been. So that off season, I had heard about the Calm app. I don't know if you guys heard about the Calm app. And started my meditation journey. I tried to be consistent every day. I started with 5 minutes, and I worked my way up to 10 minutes. Now I do about 10 to 15, depending on the day. But I try to do that every single day before I move, before I wake up, brush my teeth, get dressed, and then I go meditate. What does that do for you, Lou?
Like, I understand you're saying, what does it do for you?
Right. So ultimately, that just prepares me for the day one. But again, makes me self-aware and holds myself accountable, and makes me my awareness in space a little bit better. So just going out in daily life, I'm aware of everything around me. I'm aware of what I'm doing, where my feet is. I'm able to stay where my feet are and not think about in the future what's going to happen. What's going to happen next? Being anxious about what's going to happen next. Being anxious about what other people think of me. That was a thing that I struggled with, and I didn't even know I struggled with it until I didn't struggle with it. I'm like, man, you know what? I really don't care what everybody has to say. I really could care less what everybody thinks of me and is saying about me, and that allowed me to have a better routine, have a consistent routine, um, um, perform better on the field. Ultimately, deal with failure better, turn the page quicker, being able to have a good game. All right, cool. 3 for 4 with a homer, stolen bag, walk. Cool. Turn the page. Good job, Lou. Turn the page. You got a game tomorrow. And then the next day, 0 for 4, wasn't nowhere near the ball. You know, a ground out to third base, topper ground ball to third base. Maybe got picked off. Made a defensive error. Threw the ball, overthrew the cutoff man. All right, man. You know, we learned from it. Turn the page. Cool. We've done it before. You know what I'm saying? Like, it helped me turn the page quicker. Because in baseball, you have to, you got to turn the page. You got a game tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And
you got the next play.
Not just the next
game. You got the next play.
You got the next play. You got the next pitch. You have to be able to turn the page, pitch to pitch. And those are the most successful guys. Those guys that are able to turn the page, pitch to pitch. All right, cool. That was a bad call. Probably missed that. All right, let's turn the page. I still got to face this dude. This guy ain't backing down. You know what I'm saying? He's even more confident now. You got the umpire on the side. You got the fans on the side. He's good. So it's more of meditation for me, help my mental as far as like me being able to be okay with me and what I have going on and how I prepared. If I did my routine that day, as long as I got my routine in, whatever happened in the game happened in the game. Was supposed to. It's in God's hands at that point. And it helped me be okay with that. And ultimately, you know, my career started to uptick a little bit. And, you know, I still do it to this day. It helps me with daily life.
I think a couple things that both of you hit on that I want to follow back up with, because it really is critical for people to understand and for us to embrace. Before I follow up, though, I do want to ask, because both of you mentioned the age and when you kind of learn. These are learned behaviors in regards to getting mental discipline, getting mental toughness. Were learned behaviors that you didn't even know until y'all were pros. I do think that for, say, a younger person, it can be taught behavior, but it's something, especially for the young lady that asked the question. It's something that has to be reinforced, and it has to be something that's reinforced consistently, because you're talking about that consistency mentally, and it's got to be a way where you can make it in some ways a positive aspect. Because you don't want, again, you don't want to put too much pressure on a young player that's 10, 11, and 12 to the point where they may feel like they can't perform because they haven't let it go.
Right.
And then you're being forced to, it's one thing. I made a mistake probably last year where I was coaching my son who's 9, and he's 10 now and he's 9 then. And I would just sometimes, as a coach, you just look at the pitcher and say, throw strikes. You just tell them, throw strikes. Like, you're on the field and they're on the field and you're just like, throw strikes.
Yeah.
And it took some other coaches and other kind of mentors of mine that says, he wants to throw strikes.
Right.
He's trying to throw strikes. So
you
telling him in a stern voice to throw strikes isn't going to click for him at that moment, right? You got to let him, you got to encourage him in other ways. Hey, let it go. Let that pitch go. Like, not to, you know what I mean? Not to get. And so I a couple of things that you guys mentioned that I want to bring up. because that trait seems to be the hardest. And both of you mentioned it. And that's I call it it's not appropriate for, everybody on the look, it's in the evening and we're adults, but I call it the F it trait. Like
Mm-hmm.
just put it behind you, F it, move on to the next thing.
Right.
For the players in the moment, even at the pro level, that's sometimes the hardest thing to do, to have that short memory, to have that memory where you said, Lou, when you stopped caring what people thought was the easiest way for you to release. Coach, how do you try to, whether it's positive, whether it's consistent, how do you try to reinforce that gene that says, hey, you got to have a short-term memory. That pitch that you just threw, whether it was good, whether it was bad, that hit, whether it was a home run or it was a strikeout, put it behind you because we got to move forward now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of instill that? I call it the effort trait in them, like
Mm-hmm.
next play up.
Mm-hmm. To before I answer that one,
Oh
the
yeah.
age question, um, like when should you start training kids or players on mental toughness? I believe that it's as soon as the person in front of them can articulate it in the right way.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like mental toughness is something that I'm teaching my daughter at 3 in the kitchen. Whenever she wants something and not good at it and she wants to throw a tantrum, and I teach her mental toughness by saying, hey, look at me, eye contact. It's okay that you don't know it, but it's not right for you to be able to throw this across the floor in a tantrum. Some people look at that and be like, she's 3, leave her alone. No, I understand that it's imperative that I set the foundation for her mentally, for her development. So now she looks at failure differently because I'm teaching her how to handle failure at a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it depends who's in front of the individual. But I think that even though mental toughness is complex,
Mm.
it's all based on the mouthpiece that it's coming out of.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have some communicators that can take something complex and they can turn it into something that people can relate to, right? And then there's some things that you have no business explaining because it's just above your pay grade, and that's why you shouldn't be the one explaining it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that we should strive as communicators and leaders and parents and coaches to put mental toughness in our people ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be bite sized, but it's planting the seed. So if I put it in front of Lou and I put it equally in front of you, Cheats, if
Mm.
I put it in front of you guys, Cheats, you might get it next year. Lou, it might take you 3 more
Mm.
years. But the same seed was applied. The problem is people keep pushing off your, they keep pushing off dropping seeds of motivation, of mental toughness in you because they're looking at a driver's license on how old you are.
Yeah.
And you see
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
what I'm saying?
That's
It's
right.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to expose Lou to mental toughness at 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he might not get it until he's 16,
Mm.
but at least he was exposed to it at 9 and he got it at 16 versus like me and him, we didn't get it exposed to us at all. So we learned it at a time where we didn't need to be learning it. We should have been already exposed to it. Does that make sense?
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
but going to what you asked about, like that short-term memory,
Yeah.
I had a blessed opportunity uh, um, to hear from the hit king Pete Rose.
Mm.
He was on his independent tour, and I was playing for the Washington Wild Things in the Frontier League, and he made one of the stops there, and we had an opportunity to pick his brain inside the clubhouse. First thing he said out of his mouth is, he said, "Guys, do you want to understand?" I'm trying to talk like Pete Rose. Pete Rose said, "Guys, if you want to know how to hit like me, because I was the best to ever do it, I had to have a short-term memory for failure." He said, "Some of you, explicit, don't understand don't understand how to have a short-term memory for failure." And he says, what I learned that helped me out the most is when something happens bad to me, or if I do something wrong in the game, I allow myself 30 seconds to reflect on it, to come up with a plan, and then I minimize it and I go back to what I need to do and I address it when I get home with pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
He said that routine right there is what helped me become the hit king, because I didn't have time to continue past 30 seconds because the game was still going on. They needed me. My team needed me to play hard on defense, needed me to run the bases right. So I gave myself 30 seconds
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get myself together, reflect, do whatever I want to do in that 30 seconds. But after that, I called it selfish. So I adopted that, Cheats. I've been telling people, Lou, that if you strike out and your tantrum or whatever your feelings stays longer than 30 seconds, you're selfish.
No,
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I never heard that.
You're
Lou,
selfish.
that seemed to resonate with you. That 30 seconds, is that something that you'd heard before?
Yeah, so that's something that I've heard it from different people, maybe not 30 seconds, but I mean, like you said, the game's going on. You gotta turn the page. Next pitch, next play, next game. So I like that rule of giving yourself. That's another thing of holding yourself accountable and being able to tell yourself, all right, we got 30 seconds. All right, what we do? Why we swing at that? What were we thinking before? What did we tell ourselves before that? Okay, we didn't follow our plan. Trust yourself. All right, cool. Let's go.
Boom.
And you're good after that. So I started to develop that in meditation and being self-aware and being able to trust myself, because I think a lot of baseball players have that trouble in trusting themselves, trusting your instincts. How many times do we go up there and we're on deck and be like, man, he gonna throw me a first pitch fastball. I know he gonna throw me a first pitch fastball. It's gonna be right there. It's gonna be one I can handle. Look for it and hammer it. And then you get up there, you step in the box, you hear your walk-up song, you hear the crowd cheer, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, man, he might throw this first pitch slider. He might throw this first pitch slider. And what comes? First pitch fastball right down the middle, and you hesitate, your body can't react, and you let it go down the middle. Now you 0-1. Now you feel like you 0-2. And it's more so, why didn't you just trust yourself? Trust your instinct. You're here for a reason. And that would help me, especially later on in my career in the big leagues. You are in the big leagues for a reason. You're supposed to be here. You are just as good, if not better, than everybody on this field. You have to have that mentality. That's the mentality that Mookie Betts has. That's the mentality Jazz has. That's definitely the mentality Ronald Acuna Jr. has. And I played against him. He has that mentality like, man, ain't nobody in this stadium can touch me right now. So you have to, but that's developed. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he has all the talent in the world. People have been telling me he's the second coming. But he proves it on the field, and when he fails, you can tell, like, all right, cool, all right, move on, cool. I'm gonna get him next time. Don't worry, he's gonna throw that same pitch, and I'm gonna hammer it over right center. Like, you have to have the mentality, and it takes time. It takes a minute. You know what I'm saying? Even if you teach it to a kid that's at 10 years old or 11, 12, that early developmental stage of them or of their careers, it might take them till they're in college. You know what I'm saying? To finally get it, like, oh, okay, now I understand. I need to take a step back. I need to give myself 30 seconds or 20 seconds, however long you give yourself. It might take them a minute. So you have to be patient with yourself. Other people have to be patient with you. Your mentors, your parents, whoever it is, they need to be patient with you, because everybody has a different journey.
So we got a great question from our friend out in Jersey. Shout out. And I want to expand the question. The question she asked is, how do you have mental toughness if you're constantly underrated? I want to expand it a little bit,
Okay.
because one of the things that stands in the back of my mind is in regards to young black kids playing baseball at every level. In my mind, I'm thinking black kids in high school, black kids in college. They obviously have to deal a lot. Our kids sometimes have to deal with, depending on what setting they're in. But if they're at a power, there's not that many, even if it's what the roster is. And we are starting to see, we were just talking about this. College baseball starts tomorrow in spades, really across the board. Tomorrow is kind of the real opening tournaments and opening line demarcation in college baseball.
Yeah.
Even with teams filling their rosters more and more with black players, they're still the minority on their own teams.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, the coaches that they have don't look like them. Maybe one of the 6 coaches they have is a minority or an African American or so forth. So I do want to expand the question. It's a great question about mental toughness if you're constantly underrated. But I also see with a lot of our kids, talented black kids in high school, talented black kids in college, they how do they maintain mental toughness if they're not connecting with their environment, not connecting with their coach, and in turn probably is getting a little bit underrated because they're dealing with factors not just on the field, but being in a place that it may be uncomfortable for them.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Coach. Got that.
The first one, when it says when you're constantly underrated and looked at, I think that goes hand in hand with the both questions. They're both identical in how I answer it. When you have an uphill battle externally, the real battle begins internally.
Yeah.
I can't
That's a bar. That's a bar. I know you're an MC, but that's a bar.
I can't battle and change the stuff that's in front of me, but I can change the stuff that's inside of me.
Mm.
I can't fight those battles. Remember, Lou, we heard this a lot in pro ball when we was upset and frustrated. Control the controllable. Mm-hmm. When you're in a situation where, I'm gonna be straight up honest. When I got with the St. Louis Cardinals, bro, I was a black draft pick out of North Carolina A&T State University in the MEAC conference.
Mm-hmm.
Proud Aggie, proud all day long. And I had a rude awakening because my entire life I was ranked in the nation. I had 65 letters to go to any school in the country. I chose HBCU because it was 20 minutes down from my house, and I got a full scholarship, all baseball money. So I looked out for my brothers and sisters that was coming after me. So I made that decision to go play D1 baseball right up the street from the house. But I didn't know that black baseball was looked at in a certain way. So when I got drafted in the 26th round, my leash, like you talked about, was not long. So I was in a situation that I didn't earn when I was with the Cardinals. I didn't earn it. I was already boxed in to play Mondays and Thursdays. And I didn't earn that. But one thing that I had to understand is everybody's opportunity is different. And that opportunity for them might not be, the opportunity that they have might be what you want, but the only thing that you can control right now is your opportunity. And a wise man told me, make the most of your opportunity. So I had to shift my mindset. So instead of saying, why me? And I'm uncomfortable, I had to understand how to make uncomfortable comfortable.
Correct.
I had to learn how to say, hey, when Monday comes, I'm going to be the best on the field. And when I don't play, I'm going to continue to go in my zone to be ready for Thursday when it's time for me to play again. Because that's all mindset. But that comes from personal development.
Yep.
Personally. So I think that, mom, if you're asking for your son, or if you're asking for a player on here that seems like they're the only one on the team, you got to build them up internally so they can understand how to fight these things on the inside, so what's going on the outside doesn't affect who they are. Because right now they're trying to identify with something that doesn't look like them when they should be identifying with who they want to be.
And with them, ultimately, you can't look outward. I'm going to second that. You can't look at what you don't have or what opportunities you might not have, or, they're not giving me the proper chance. Earn it. Go on the field and earn it. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I can't really speak for his situation. My situation was different. I was the first round. I had more opportunities. I did what I needed to do, but if I didn't, I would have had more years to fail and not get the job done in the minor leagues. Like I said, I had to make it at least to first year of the big league.
No, Lou,
you know what I'm saying?
What you're telling me is your situation was almost completely the opposite of Coach Beatty's situation, based off of those boxes that that people slot you in.
Correct.
That's phenomenal. That's fantastic. Yo, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
I got to shout out Coach Pelf, one of the best coaches that I've seen. Dennis Pelfrey is just checked in real quick. Shout out to Coach Pelf and the Flying Squirrels. Welcome back, my brother. See you at the Diamond. Continue on, Lou. Continue on.
Yeah, so I mean, and I had guys like him looking at me like, man, he ain't even, you know what I'm saying? He struck out 3 times yesterday and he grounded out the third and he struck out again. And I'm sure I had guys looking at me like that. It's just the way the system works. It's just how it is. White, black, red, yellow. I was a first rounder. I had more opportunities than the 26 to 30 to 40th rounder. It's just the way it is. But in a sense, those guys that made it to the big leagues that got drafted in the 26th round or the 36th round, they worked their ass off. Straight up. Like, you have to work hard. You have to put in the work. You got to put in more work because the coaches aren't paying attention to your work that you're putting in. I mean, it just is what it is. They're paying attention to the high draft pick. They're paying attention to the Dominican Venezuelan sensation in the cage or on the mound. They're not paying attention to your extra work. So you have to be okay with working in silence, working by yourself, getting in extra work that nobody sees.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it'll show on the field, like you said. Yeah, Mondays and Thursdays. That Monday, I'm gonna be the best player on the field. That Thursday, I'm gonna be the best player on the field. I'm gonna pay attention Tuesday and Wednesday to the game. Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That day game on Sunday, I'm gonna be there early. I'm gonna pay attention to the game, and on Monday, I'm gonna be ready to rock. You just have to. You can't make excuses for like, oh man, they're not seeing me. They're not seeing me. They'll see you if you go out there and perform. They'll see you on the mound if you go out there and strike out 10 guys. You know what I'm saying? And you're doing what you need to do on the field. Because again, off the field, you might not be getting the looks that all these other guys are getting. So you have to take accountability for what you're doing in your job.
Yeah, shout out to my brother Jay Jackson. We've got a special. This is a special conversation we're having, but we've got so many special people in the chat as well. Jay Jackson, my guy,
Jackson.
man. We tried to get Jay. Yeah, we tried to get Jay last week, and he was on the road. Look, we're gonna get you back. We're gonna get you back in to have these conversations. Congratulations on your book, my brother. You need to send me a copy because
Oh
I
man,
know.
congrats.
Look, he's had a book about talking about these anecdotes as well. One of the things I'm cracking a smile about because some of this stuff is so complex,
Mm-hmm.
and you brothers are obviously played at the highest levels, and you guys are really good at communicating certain things. And I just want to let the audience know some of this stuff is easier said than done,
100%.
right? Easier said
100%.
than done because we're talking about baseball as being such a hard sport to play,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yo, shout out Terrence Keel, Texas A&M, big weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out, my boy. Look, do your thing this weekend, my boy. But and I had a chuckle because the mom from Jersey that we're talking about, I know her son Lou. If I told you who it is, you know her son as well. You probably do. Uh, and he is the only right now, and I think he's the only black player on his team, and he plays for a Major League Baseball team. He's not he's not at the lower levels,
Okay.
and I know I joke around about that because I know even at that level from a guy that, like you said, went through all those levels that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
it's still hard, man.
Oh yeah.
Because he's a young guy, he's
Mm-hmm.
really talented, right? And he's still like he's making the most of his opportunities. I know it, and again, we know it because we see it on SportsCenter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he's still looking around and saying, "Man, if this guy goes up, am I going down? What do I like?" You know what I'm saying? And it's not that he's mentally weak because I know him. He's gonna do his thing.
Yeah.
But it's
You can't
just
have to think that.
it's so
You can't.
hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just not easy.
No, yeah, you can't help to think that. That's all. You just can't help to
Yeah, it's
for
in the
that to
back of
go
your
through your brain.
mind. Both of y'all have been in these situations,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah,
said.
you're
And I
human.
love the fact that one has a long, Lou, you had a really long leash based off of what you were
Mm-hmm.
doing. Jay Jackson was just talking about his leash. If you're not in the first 2 rounds, your leash is different.
Mm-hmm.
Your signing bonus isn't X.
Your journey
It's
is different.
different.
Your journey's
And
different. Yeah.
and so yeah, man, it's just it's a blessing to chop it up with you guys about this, and honestly to see from the audience, like who I was just saying, Keel's a freshman that's a top player. He's going to be a top
Yeah.
guy, if not this year, moving forward. So it's interesting to see. Let me switch gears just a little bit, because you said something earlier that I wrote down in my notes and I want to come back to, and I think it does apply. It's applicable. Embracing failure.
Mm-hmm.
Embracing failure. You both mentioned it, and we didn't really dive into it. Both of you guys now have had careers that were at the highest of the highs. People where I could only imagine to go. But with those highs of the highs, those peaks and valleys, you might have experienced some depths that honestly I made because I wasn't at the highs. Don't know what the depths are like. When those challenging times come, how did y'all embrace not just failure, but just things not going your way? How did you embrace it? And this doesn't have to be a baseball question, because we're talking about winning mentally. It
Mhm.
Yeah.
could be a it could be a life question. When you how did you embrace those dips?
I would say I learned, especially I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I feel like once you become an athlete and you make it to high school, you're going to take a lot of those principles with you for the rest of your life,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what level, because high school opens up the I want that out of you. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like middle school is still like you're like, hey man, we're still having fun and
Yeah.
that. But when you get to high school, that's when you really put your big boy, big girl pants on and say, I want to get to varsity.
Yeah.
I might not play baseball or softball after high school, but I want to be a starter on varsity, or I want to get to varsity, or I want to make this JV team. That's where I want that starts for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that taste of competition is what starts. I think that one thing that has helped me in all walks of life when it comes to embracing failure is the moment that I understood that failure was necessary for me to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm,
if you want to be great, you have to walk through the door of failure. So I couldn't continue to say, I want to be the best, but I want to avoid failure. So if I saw that I was getting closer and closer to my dreams and goals, after going through failure, I had to step out of self and my situation to say, whoa, if I'm getting closer a lot faster to my dreams and goals by going through that door, I need to start running through those doors.
Mm-hmm.
You
mm.
see what I'm saying? I need to
Yeah.
change the way I look at failure, because after I get up from getting skint, I'm learning how to ride that bike a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are getting skint from falling off the bikes and they're saying I'm giving up. But I want this so bad that I'm gonna have to go through the part of the skinning up my knees and stuff. I'm gonna have to get back on it.
Yeah.
So for me, what helped me embrace failures is seeing that after every storm of adversity, wisdom is left. So
Mm.
after learned and saw that, I'm telling you, that's when I started to say, you know what? I know failure doesn't taste good, but if I keep eating it, I'm gonna find out that I'm gonna start liking it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start to
Bar.
change, when you start looking looking for your failures,
Mm-hmm.
when I start to see something that I'm not good at, I gotta go in and attack it now.
Mm.
Yeah.
If I see something that I want, but if I'm terrible with my backhand, I'm not gonna run from it. I'm gonna run towards it. Hey, Lou, help me with this thing because I don't want this to be a hole in my game.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to look for failures and look for weaknesses and look for things that were not strong, and I started to attack those. And when you look at it that way, life will start moving for you.
100%.
Lou, I'm gonna let you jump in here, but I'm reminded. Shout out to D Gordon. D Gordon actually. Shout out to his daughter too. She's having her 7th birthday tonight, and I know that because D Gordon. I'd asked D to come on with y'all because he is a great person to talk to about this topic, and I'm reminded of something he told me. We were doing an event, a taping, and he told a story in the taping that when he hears the word no, he doesn't hear no. He hears next option. And he was talking about setting up all the wonderful things he's doing with his farm and you know, doing all the stuff on the farm and building a baseball field and developing players. And he wanted to do it all in his hometown. And they were like, no. And so he was like, all right, next option. He literally got to the neighboring town.
Yeah.
And he found a way that they embraced everything that he was wanting to do. And he wound up having his hometown look crazy and begging him to bring it back. But he was like, you know, when he hears no, it was next option. And I never heard it presented to me that way, because we talk all the time in life. You get a lot of no's in life, especially if you're an ambitious person. You're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to make things work, whether it's, at the next level of your career. You hear no a lot. And I was like, man, how do I work with this? And D Gordon gave us a gem when he said next option. But I'm gonna jump over to you, Lou, because Coach said a lot just now about embracing the challenges, embracing the failure, but really running towards things to make sure that he can overcome them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to. You just have to. You have to go through failure in life, in baseball, in whatever you're doing as your profession. You need to fail first, or you need to fail at some point to get to the other side. For me, that first full season, I failed a lot. I had my successes, but it was a very peak and valley roller coaster type of season. I struck out a lot. I hit a good amount of home runs, but I failed, and I learned from that. Moving forward, next season had a great year, and from that point on, had great years just because I learned from my failures of 2013, from the first time in pro ball, really failing like that, and being, the first round guy, and he got all this money. How we give him all this money? He's doing this, that, and the third. It's like, you hear that stuff as an 18, 19-year-old. You hear that stuff, and you're like, man, maybe that starts to creep in. Maybe he's right, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful for those failures and those trials and tribulations, because it literally made me into the person I am today. I've gone through many more failures. I've gone through failures at the highest level, and it's made me stronger for that. I've had teammates that had never failed in the minor leagues, and then they get to the big leagues and they fail for the first time, and it's literally the detriment. It's detrimental to their career, because they're like, what do I do now? Because now it's failure with 1 million and some odd people watching and cameras and that fifth deck, and you got the organization. There's organizations on your back like, hey man, listen, we're gonna need you to step it up, or we're gonna have to find somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And you start to feel that pressure. And if you haven't failed before, you don't know how to succeed. You don't know how to get out of that. You don't know what to do. I learned how to get out of failure and failing, and get out of slumps because I've had failure in the past. I've learned, like, hey, listen, if I'm going through this, that, and the third, how to not let that snowball. I've learned that through my failures in the minor leagues and in the big leagues. Obviously, you have mentors and you have people that give you advice along the way. But ultimately, you need to stay. You got to stick in it. You got to be in it yourself, and you have to develop yourself and your mental into knowing how to deal with that and make it into a positive at the end of the day. So I learned that throughout my career, and it helped me, again, throughout life. I'm the man today because of all my failures, obviously, because of all my successes as well. But it just teaches you, iron sharpens iron. It just sharpens that sword when you're going through the things that you ultimately need to go through. But again, you just like Coach said, you got to embrace that. You have to. You can't. I don't want to say you have. Oh man, I want to fail so I can. You know what I'm saying? You know, nobody wants to fail. But at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I'm better for it now. Like a lethal shooter on Instagram. I understand it now. And you go ahead and make that next shot or hit that fastball that you maybe couldn't have hit at before.
Let me ask the question to both of y'all, because I'm interested to learn this, knowing where the conversation has gone this evening. I really appreciate both of you and your time. do have to do one quick check-in again with our sponsors. Shout out to Steeler Sports, the Players Alliance, Numbers Game Scorecards, Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds. If you do ever want to partner with the Black Baseball Mixtape, make sure that you email us, message us. We love to work with the brains that share our vision.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, shout out to Juan Pierre too on the check-in. I know he's one of your guys, Lou,
Yeah,
right? One of your
man,
guys.
that's my idol, man. Anytime
Yo,
Juan
shout out.
idol, man. Shout out JP.
But let me ask a question for both of y'all because I think it goes to where we were been going. At what age and how comfortable did y'all learn about asking for help?
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like one of the things that can help our young players, our high school, our college, even our pro players, is coming to an understanding that they need to ask for help. They
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to embrace not just obviously mental aspects of it as well, but also just like Coach was saying, if my backhand is bad, I need to ask somebody who has a good backhand. How do I get my backhand like y'all's? In a lot of our community,
Mm-hmm.
call a spade, either don't know how to ask for help or is afraid to ask for help, right?
Yeah,
Because you're talking about that survival mode. In survival mode, you ain't asking for help.
yeah. You got to figure
How
it
when did you kind of understand? How did you go about asking for help as a black man that needs to learn how to do something better?
out. I learned personally. I had a mentor growing up, um, and I wanted to get better at all costs. Once I figured out maybe my sophomore year in high school that I was legit and I was getting attention from scouts. In colleges, he was my mentor, my hitting coach. I asked him about life. I asked him about hitting, fielding, speed, weight training, diet. Like I asked him questions because I wanted to make it to the next level. I wanted to get drafted. I wanted to make it to the big leagues as quickly as possible. And so probably at like 13, 12, 13, 14, I started asking questions to people that I felt that could give me the right answers to where I could make it to the next level. So yeah, around like 12, 13, 14 for me. And then I haven't stopped asking questions since, honestly.
I love that. I love that. Coach, for you?
I would say a lot of times, if it's not brought to you as a learned trait, because it is something that you're taught. Where if you're taught survival, you're not going to ask questions. You're not going to ask for help because you're scared. You're
Mm-hmm.
scared to get laughed at. You're scared to lose your spot. You're
Mm-hmm.
scared to show weakness because sometimes asking questions mean you don't understand.
Right.
And if you don't understand, and if you get ridiculed at home or to your family members or close friends by asking questions, or you grow up like me and you hear your mom and dad, boy, stop asking these questions.
Right, because
You're scared.
probably because they didn't have the
You know
answers.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So,
I
but
don't
you
know.
grow
Stop asking me.
you grow up saying like, I don't want to ask no questions because I don't want nobody to jump or laugh at me. So,
Yeah.
if it's not that, I would say the other side of it is, I feel that instinctively you'll start to ask questions when you're tired of losing.
Mm.
When you're tired,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're very, very uncomfortable in your situation, instinctively you're going to look for change.
Yeah.
Like seriously, even if you don't know,
Yeah.
right? I could be locked in this room, and if it's extremely hot, I'm not going to sit right here because I don't know how to get out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit right here because the door is locked, and well, I don't have a key, so I'm just going to sit right here and just bake. No,
Right.
if it gets extremely hot and I'm extremely
I'm out.
uncomfortable, I'm taking the chair through the window.
I'm out.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when people really tap into, I'm tired of losing, I'm tired of my situation, that's when you'll say, you know what? I see what he has, and he looks like he's winning. Sir, you look like you're winning. You're smiling. You're having a great time. I'm not. Is there anything that you can recommend that
Straight
can
up.
help me get like you?
Straight up.
That's how it starts because
Straight up.
you're tired of your situation. When you're struggling in baseball and you feel like you're better than everybody, but you're just struggling. Well, if your pride is too big, you're never going to ask. But if you're tired of struggling, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go to that one guy that you never talk to that's hitting the ball very good, you're gonna pull him to the side and be like, "Hey, bro, I know we don't know each other like that, but you are tearing the cover off the ball. What are you thinking in the box?" We all been through that.
Yeah.
It'll be somebody I don't even know their last name, but they play on my team, and he just yelling at the plate, and I'm the 3-4 batter. I'm going down to that guy, and be like, "Bro, what are you thinking at the plate?" So when I feel that when you get tired of losing or in a situation that's not comfortable for you, if you're truly tapped out and you want answers, the only way you get to an answer is by asking a question.
Absolutely. That's second. Sure. I've been there. I think
we
all have.
I think we've all been there. Like, hey, man, what are you thinking? And they usually tell you nothing, honestly.
Nothing. And then you be like, bro, because you're ready for some like thesis statement, and they give you, man, I just step in the box, see ball, hit ball. But like, nah, bro, it ain't that. It ain't
like,
that.
you know what, man?
But you know what that is, Lou? That's what y'all talked about earlier. If you win in the preparation, you don't think as much because you know you've done the work.
Correct.
Right? You studied for the test, so when the test comes, you feel like again there's a lot that uncertainty. That uncertainty breeds a lot of angst, anxiety, and confusion because you may have thought you cheated yourself on the work.
Yeah.
You know, if you've convinced yourself that you've done the work that you need to do, you are a little bit freer. You think a lot less about it. You trust in your skills, and again, that those are some of the things I think for younger players that they have to reconcile with, right? Like when do they trust the work, right? And sometimes even if you do all the preparation and you're ready to go, you still may make a physical error. That doesn't mean that you didn't trust. You know what I mean? Don't start doubting the work. You know what I mean?
I think honestly, just one more point. I think honestly, you trust the work when, and you try not to be results based, but you trust the work when you see the results. I think that's just human nature. When you do enough work and you do enough work on the mound, in the cage, in the field, whatever you're trying to get better at, once you see the results, one, it's a good feeling for yourself. Like, man, I put in the work and I got results. I feel good. But when you start to see results from what you've been working on, that's when that trust comes in, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're coming up on the hour. If you are listening to this live and you're enjoying what you hear, please, give us a fire emoji in the chat or something like that. Make sure you follow all of these gentlemen. CJ Beatty on Instagram, obviously Lewis Brinson. Make sure you follow him as well. Black Baseball Mixtape. Subscribe to the podcast. Follow. Gentlemen, I'm going to leave y'all on a fun question. We've had a robust discussion, and I know a lot of it was weighted and heavy. I appreciate that. I want to ask you guys just individually because you brought it up, Lou, when we were kind of texting just briefly before the show. If you were going to name a player, shout out Brandon Crosby.
Brandon Crosby.
Shout out my guy. Look, he was another one that was going to be on tonight. Hey,
come on next week, bro.
Nah, we got time. Brandon's a homie. Man. We got time. Look, it's not every day that we get Coach Beatty now. Look, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. It's not every day. He's internationally traveling. There's a lot going on. Lou, we're locked in, but not every day we get Coach Beatty. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, but the question is, go back in history, man. Who do you think, in your mind, maybe you've seen him firsthand, maybe you just watched him from afar, who's the most mentally tough player that you've ever seen? I got one in my mind. I'm gonna let y'all go. Who's the most mentally tough player y'all got?
I got mine. You want to go, Lou, or you want me to say?
I got mine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The first person that came to my mind, and it's a lot of people that you can choose. But I just went for the first person that popped up because I said, in order for you to be this person and to be walked as many times as he was,
we might have the same guy.
You know what I'm saying? To have that season where you walk this much, I have a lot of respect for where you are mentally in Mr. Barry Bonds. Man, Barry Bonds, because, I mean, think about it. For him to still do damage and be walked as much as he did, and when you did have the galls to try to throw it down anywhere remotely close to the plate, it was being served over the fence.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know mentally I was not strong enough to be in that position because of frustration of wanting to win the game, frustration of wanting to hit my incentives, frustration of wanting to be a part of the game. I've been doing all my routines just to get walked 4 times in a game. I mean, you talk about mentally tough. And then that one time where they walked the man with the bases loaded. Come on, man. I
Yeah.
mean, so my
Intentionally
guy is
walk with
Barry
the base
Bonds.
They
loaded.
said, hey,
Yeah, we good. We
let's go
good.
first. We'll
Wait,
take the run. We'll
we
give
can
up
take,
the
yeah, we can
run.
eat the run. We can eat runs. We're not eating 4. Go ahead. Who you got, Lou?
This dude, man, I've gotten a chance to talk to him face to face. I've gotten a chance to watch him on TV. Mr. Derek Jeter is probably the coolest, the calmest, most collected human being that I've ever come in contact with. Obviously, was my boss at a point. Brought me to Miami, and I am forever grateful for Mr. Jeter for bringing me. I can't say Mr. Jeter for Derek bringing me to Miami and making a kid's dream come true. But his mentality, obviously, to win 5 championships, and three-peat at that. But him to be the captain of the Yankees, to be the captain of New York.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? At a certain point, Hall of Famer, 3,000 hits, all those accolades. But just all the stuff that comes with being a Yankee and being the shortstop of the Yankees and the captain of the Yankees, and knowing that the city is literally on his back. And for him to be as cool, calm, and collected and prepared, because he's one person that preaches preparation.
Yes.
He would tell, I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared for every situation that might happen on the baseball field. So when I go out there and play, I play free. I'm out there. I'm able to let my instincts take over and let my natural baseball abilities go ahead and take over. I'm not thinking when I'm out there, when I'm in the field, when I'm at the plate. I'm not thinking because I've already played and been through this scenario 1,000 times in my head and in the cages or on the field at shortstop taking ground balls, whatever the case may be. He was just ultimately prepared, so he had no anxiety at all. It seemed like for me, and just he preached preparation when he was the ownership group with the Marlins, and anytime he would talk to us, he's like, man, the way that you are able to play free and be able to do your job on the field is if you're prepared off the field, if you're prepared for this game off the field. So Derek Jeter for me is gotta be one of the most mentally tough human beings, because I don't know, playing in New York, dog, and you struggling in New York is tough.
And we saw that real quick with Judge.
But Yankee fans, I know are tough, are rugged and tough on their players. So for him to do what he did and accomplish what he accomplished in his career, I mean, shout out to Derek Jeter. Shout out to the captain.
That's a great one. The captain is a great one. Obviously, Barry Bonds is a great one.
Great one.
I went in another direction, and this is not somebody I've never met. Unfortunately, I won't get the chance to meet him. But I obviously followed the career, seen him play, heard stories. But there was a book that came out probably about 4 or 5 years ago now by my favorite baseball writer, Howard Bryant. And Howard Bryant wrote a book on Rickey Henderson.
Oof.
And it was called Rickey, and it's from soup to nuts, from the beginning of his, kind of starting in Oakland and all throughout his entire career. And the reason, at some point, you have to ask yourself at some level, is it almost delusion? But Rickey Henderson, I'm talking about, he didn't think. He knew he was the best thing on the field. Anytime he walked on the field, this could have been 22-year-old rookie playing, Rickey as a rookie for the Oakland Athletics, or 40-year-old Rickey at the end of his career. But he knew that he was the goods, and it didn't matter if he went 0 for 3 one day. His mentality was so, I'm gonna get on base. Once I get on base, I'm gonna steal second. I'm gonna steal third. Here, you better not walk me because I'm gonna be at third base.
Ricky gonna steal second and steal third
Yeah,
now.
he was gonna steal. It was called a Ricky run. It was a walk Ricky Henderson. He would steal second, steal third, sacrifice fly, and that was a Ricky run. He scored on that.
Yeah.
And it was, obviously to have that mentality, and every time, Coach Beatty, every time they challenged him, if a coach told Ricky Henderson, "Oh, you can't hit 30 home runs," he would hit 30 home runs. Out of spite, just to be like, "Yo, I can do this." You know what I'm saying? You can't steal 100 bases. He stole 130 by the All-Star break at the
Ricky
time.
had that at the All-Star break.
And so it was one of those things where you constantly saw the challenges that were put in front of Henderson when you read the book. Natural football player, raw talent, black man, attitude, wants more money, all of this stuff. It did not matter when Ricky Henderson stepped on the field. And I mean, so it was just, I think about that often. And I do think about players like Henderson's one I think about. Another one that obviously we can't talk to, I think about Tony Gwynn.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the mental, just the mental toughness and mental ability to be Tony Gwynn.
Mm-hmm.
Ichiro doesn't even speak the language.
Bro,
He knows you got to step in the box and hit. Right. So
we don't
I
even
love
have to get into that, but Jackie.
I love it. I love that question, gentlemen. And you guys have some wonderful answers. I'm going to stick with Henderson. So we got Bonds, we got the captain, and we got Henderson talk. I will tell you this: you two brothers are two of the mentally tough and mentally prepared brothers I've ever spent an hour with, and I really, really appreciate the time. Lou, we'll be back next week. We don't know who's coming on, but Coach. Use this last amount of time, man. I had somebody in the chat already ask, when are you coming to his city? When is TBM, I believe, coming to the city? Tell everybody what you got going on, where they can follow you, and when you're coming to their city, my bro.
Man, first of all, thank you guys for having me on tonight. It was a pleasure. We need more of this because it's opportunities like this. I remember as a young black boy that plays baseball, to hear guys like you talk about it, guys like us talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It inspired me to continue. So thank you for having this platform. I just got blessed to go down. I'm playing the celebrity baseball Houston 1000s with Pete Perfect Game next week in Houston. So be down there, 2 weekends.
Okay.
And then next week I'm going to be in Fort Pierce and in Cincinnati with a travel organization. So I think that was TBM. When is TBM coming to Memphis?
Yeah.
Hey, slide in them DMs, man. Delta flies out there. Delta fly there. So
Delta flies out
you know
there.
what I'm saying? So just hit me up, man. We'll get we'll get a TBM TSM event near you, man. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you for all the support.
Are you making more music? Two people asked in the chat on the way out. Are you making more music? Are you making music for softball? That's the question.
Yes. I got softball music. Yeah, we got some of that going on now. I'm actually writing a couple songs that's getting ready to drop a new album by spring, man. So it's coming out.
All right, well, look, two people asked. It's coming. Yeah. The music is coming. Yes, they want bars. They want bars.
He was spitting bars the whole.
They want bars. Hey, look, they want bars, man. Look, Coach, it's always online, offline, whenever you're a chance to connect and see each other. I value the conversation, so I really appreciate your time more than anything. And I appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge. So thank you, Coach, for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Coach.
Lou, you already know we'll be back next week, next Thursday, IG Live again. We got to get some of Lou's hometown connections. We got.
Oh no, I got you.
We got JP hopping on. We got to get him.
Get JP on there, man.
Yeah. Look, we gonna make it work, man. Yo, look, and we about to get out, and Ty just hopped on. Shout out Ty, yo. Shout out the Players Alliance. Thank all the sponsors one more time. This whole episode will be up tomorrow morning on the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. You can re-listen, clip it out, play it for anybody that'll listen. Again, thank you to our sponsors, and make sure you subscribe. Until next time, Coach CJ Beatty, Lewis Brinson, my guy. We'll be back next week, Lou.
All right.
We're out. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.